Max Verstappen has stated he is less likely to quit Formula One now that the sport has agreed in principle to adjust its engine regulations. The four-time world champion had previously threatened to leave, heavily criticizing the initial 50-50 power split between the internal combustion engine (ICE) and battery power. He labeled the heavy reliance on battery management as anti-racing and likened driving the cars to Mario Kart. The core issues with the regulations: drivers faced highly counterintuitive behaviors on track under the initial technical framework. Super clipping. Cars actively lost speed at the end of straightaways because the power unit diverted energy away from the wheels to recharge the battery. Lift and coast. Racers had to back off the throttle during high-speed corners just to harvest electrical energy, removing the ability to push the cars to their absolute limits. Red Bull's performance. The power unit shift coincided with a difficult start to the competitive order for the Red Bull racing team. Verstappen possesses contract break clauses if the team falls below a certain ranking. The proposed changes: F1 rulemakers, engine manufacturers, and the FIA are negotiating a compromise ahead of upcoming seasons. Power rebalance. An agreement in principle intends to shift the engine layout toward a 60-40 split in favor of the combustion engine. Increased fuel flow. The shift will likely be accomplished by raising the fuel flow to the ICE to ensure cars do not cut power on straights. Verstappen's reaction. Verstappen welcomed the direction, calling it the minimum I was hoping for, and noting it brings the driving experience almost back to normal. Max Verstappen has dropped a major bombshell regarding his future in Formula One, signaling that he is now much less likely to walk away from the sport. The four-time world champion had previously sent shockwaves through the paddock by threatening to quit, launching scathing attacks on the upcoming engine regulations. Verstappen was highly critical of the initially proposed 50-50 power split between the traditional internal combustion engine and battery power. He went so far as to label the heavy reliance on electrical energy management as anti-racing, famously comparing the experience of driving these next-generation cars to playing Mario Kart. The root of his frustration lay in the highly counterintuitive behaviors drivers experienced on track under the initial technical framework. The first major issue was a phenomenon known as super clipping. Under the old proposal, cars would actively lose speed at the very end of straightaways because the power unit would abruptly divert energy away from the wheels to recharge the battery. This meant drivers would decelerate right when they should be flying down the straights. The second issue was the excessive need for lift and coast. Racers were being forced to back off the throttle during high-speed corners just to harvest electrical energy, completely stripping them of the ability to push their machinery to the absolute limit. Complicating matters further, this massive power unit shift coincided with a difficult start to the competitive order for the Red Bull racing team. Because Verstappen possesses strict performance-related break clauses in his contract, any drop in team ranking meant his departure from Red Bull and potentially F1 altogether was a very real possibility. However, a breakthrough has emerged. F1 rulemakers, engine manufacturers, and the FIA have negotiated a crucial compromise ahead of the upcoming seasons. To fix the simulation flaws, they have agreed in principle to shift the engine layout toward a 60-40 split in favor of the internal combustion engine. This rebalance will be achieved by increasing the fuel flow to the traditional engine, ensuring that cars no longer cut power dramatically on long straights. Verstappen has warmly welcomed this new direction, calling it the absolute minimum he was hoping for, and noting that it finally brings the ultimate driving experience almost back to normal.